I can invest hundreds of millions of dollars in technology, leading to the point where the customer is super satisfied with the tech. But you, as a customer, if the car you wanted is not available, or the car you get into is dirty, guess what? It doesn't matter how the tech served you. Your experience in that moment of time is poor.
Welcome to Technovation. I'm your host, Peter High. My guest today is Ravi Simhambhatla. Ravi is the Executive Vice President and Chief Digital and Innovation Officer for Avis Budget Group, a car rental agency holding company which earns in excess of $12 billion in annual revenue. He's held the role since July of 2022, and during his tenure, Ravi has modernized practices at the company, including a cloud emphasis, data strategy, and introducing new technologies to improve operations. I look forward to hearing more about his journey over the past nearly 2.5 years through this conversation. Prior to joining Avis Budget Group, Ravi was the Chief Technology Officer of Customer Experience and Transportation for Google and the Chief Technology Officer of United Airlines. Ravi, welcome to Technovation. It's great to speak with you today.
Thank you, Peter. Very glad to be here.
I'm glad that you are here, so thank you. Well, let's begin, Ravi, with your business. I mentioned it in brief, Avis Budget Group. Please, in your own words, talk a bit about the business you're a part of.
Certainly. We are one of the globe's preeminent car rental companies. We essentially have three major brands, Avis, Budget, and Payless. We span across 170 plus countries globally. And our business is split into two, one where we manage our own operations. It's the Avis Budget Group branded locations where you can rent cars, and our licensees who are all franchisees of our brand. So that's how we've spread across the globe, over 20,000 employees, and we run a fantastic shop.
Fantastic. And talk a little bit about how you differentiate across the brands you mentioned. What are some of the differences between them?
Certainly. I'll spotlight on Avis and Budget. Avis is the more premium version of our brand. It's more attractive to our corporate customers who have a certain preference for cars and fleets, and certain availability of those cars and fleets. And then the Budget brand is primarily for our leisure customers who go on vacations with their families and all, and they're looking for a great deal in a safe way and a reliable vehicle.
That makes sense, and an interesting way of dividing that between the two. Talk a bit about your role. It's an interesting combination, Chief Digital and Innovation Officer for the group. Talk a bit about what's within your purview, if you would.
Certainly. The CDIO title, I would just say it's kind of new over the last 5-6 years. It has kind of penetrated technology circles. Essentially, it's just basically the following: part CIO, part driving digital platforms to drive more engagement and revenue and high quality revenue, which means high margin, and part innovation. Look at the technology landscape, look at what other people are doing out there, learn from what's happening there, and figure a way out to inject those learnings back into your own organization to make it better. So it's kind of an amalgamation of various roles. On any given day, I'll put on the CIO hat where we want to do data center migrations. Then I'll say, oh my God, we've got to go launch a brand new app, which by the way, we launched mid-September. And then we're going to say, hey, how do I create the best customer experience for my customers on location using all the new tech out there, be it AI, Gen AI, any of the variants out there. So it's really, really interesting. I'd say, I've been in this business for 36 years, and I climbed up the ladder from literally the bottom rung, connecting token ring network cables in England. I'm here, many thanks to my family and all my peers and bosses in the past, but by far, this is one of the most interesting and fun careers I've had at the Avis Budget Group. And I've only been here for a little over 2.5 years.
Ravi, you mentioned to me in past conversation that it's important to remember that the car rental business is about three things. This is, I'm quoting you: make our customers' journey successful, ensure that employees are positioned to make the customer's journey successful, and then make some money while doing it. And I wonder if you could take a moment and describe technology's role, at least in brief, in breathing life into those three areas.
Certainly. As we all know, technology in today's world is a foundational and mostly a cornerstone enabler of businesses. No matter what products you build, no matter what you're trying to do, the underpinning is tech. So it's our job in the company. It's not just mine, everyone's job to figure out how can I make my customer successful? Let me just hit on that point for a second. Imagine this, that you're flying from O'Hare to Newark, and there's a weather delay in O'Hare, which happens in winters, nobody can control the weather. And you land 2 hours late. And then you make your way out to the car rental counter. And then you have to wait for 20 minutes in line to pick up your car. It's not the car rental agency's fault that all these things happen to delay you. However, as a customer, that is the last stop before you exit that journey and move on, is the car rental agency. All your frustrations, anger in some cases, because of the delays and all the things happen, culminate in that interaction with my company. That's what I want to break apart. I want to make sure no matter how good or bad your journey has been, from the point you come to us and beyond until you return the car to us, that you have the best experience and the safest experience. And so that's what customer experience is to me. And it encapsulates a lot of things I'm sure we'll dive into a little bit deeper as the conversation proceeds. But on the flip side, I have my frontline employees, at our locations. And these are women and men whose job it is to get our customers into the door and out of the door as quickly as possible. Our job, again, is to provide these teammates with the best tools that allows them the most efficient processes and methods for them to do their jobs. And you will know, Peter, in your experience, and I've come from airlines, 3 airlines, we over-index in many industries, we over-index in making the customer happy because we're going and looking at NPS. But what we have to realize is that you get happy customers when you get happy employees, especially those who are in the front line and whose job it is to serve our customers. And so that's what our very, very core focus is. And of course, we're a for-profit company. I mean, there's no other way to look at it. But there's a right way to be profitable. And I can say I'm very proud to say that in my company, the focus on customer experience and all the other machinery that needs to make great customer experience come to life is absolute. We are very, very committed to that, and it is seen everywhere in our interactions. Now, of course, we're not perfect. I don't want to come across like, hey, we never make mistakes. Of course we do. But we also take it very seriously, learn from our mistakes, learn from the lessons, and reapply them back to how we conduct our business.
Fantastic overview and really well said. Interesting insights into the philosophy that you employ. I wonder if you can dial a little bit further into some of the differences between how you see digital experience for business travelers versus the kind of traditional experience. For those of us that are long in the tooth in our career, we can remember when this was almost entirely an in-person tactile, maybe by phone. That was the kind of electronic channel that we were interacting with. Of course, now interactions through websites, through mobile apps, and so on. But obviously, at the end of the day, it involves getting to a physical place and getting a physical product, that car. Talk a bit about how you think about that, the interactions between those.
Over the years, with the advent and push of new technology, right? And then in the 2000s, the smartphone, my observation, and this is my personal observation, has been that business women and men and travelers in general have had their schedules and the amount of time they have to do things severely compressed. The technology enabled to compress their schedules and timelines, right? So a lot of pressure to do a lot of things in a very small amount of time. Then you had more technology, because now you have less time on your hands, you have more technology to help you to manage the less time on your hands. So to me, it's just like a rabbit hole that has literally no ending to it. And this is where I really feel that it's going to be very important for us to inject ourselves in those moments that really matter for our customers. Our customers, when they come in, today's customers are all on their smartphones. They want self-service. And the reason why they want self-service, even though they think it is the most convenient thing to do, it's because they have no time. They have no time to pick up the phone. They have no time to interact with someone. And besides the point, many a time they're already running late because the airline brought them in late, right? So they have no time. So it's my job to say, okay, Peter Hyde used to have 2 hours on his hands, a decade ago. That 2 hours now has gotten compressed to 20 minutes. In those 20 minutes, how can I put the right tech in front of him to be his digital concierge, to see him through his journey without being intrusive? Allow him to depend upon it, allow him to trust it. So he knows that the Avis Budget Group is always with him in his journey, but always not in front of him, intruding. And that's the job of tech. My belief has always been it needs to be a layer just below the surface, enabling every interaction, every point in time of the customer's journey, but not in their face.
Yeah, really well articulated. It's fascinating thought process. And I love this whole notion of being below the surface and making sure that you are there to be supportive, but not to be intrusive. A really interesting balance to strike as a result of that. Earlier you mentioned, speaking of customer satisfaction, NPS, that this is a company-wide metric used to determine satisfaction of customers. I wonder, how do you think about the role that your team can play? I mean, certainly part of the answer is what you've just described. So providing them the sorts of tools that take that very limited amount of time, making it as productive and as enjoyable, or at least as seamless as possible. Anything else that you would reflect on as you think about the impact to NPS?
Certainly, I think the greatest impact to NPS, and I'm really, really, really proud of this, is our frontline teammates. It's not tech. They're the ones who take care of our customers day in, day out. They're the ones who bash through difficult situations and try and help our customers out in the journey. So I want to make sure I recognize that, because at the end of the day, it's the human touch that really, really, really matters in my business. Now coming back to tech, of course, tech has a huge role to play between the new app allowing for self-service, transparency of information. Like, many a time in the past, there would be a lot of complaints in the travel, transportation, hospitality industry, generally speaking, of lack of transparency on the fees and the charges. And you guys know this. When you look at your itemized bill, whether it's an airline or hotel car rental agency, you will find all sorts of numbers there that add up to a pretty large number, but you can't explain what the little numbers are. Our company, again, I'm very proud to say, we are absolutely advocates for our customers. We believe in transparency. We use tech to put that transparency out there. Now, as far as moving forward with NPS, it's my job is a bit weird. I am the Chief Digital and Innovation Officer. Yep, sure. But here's the catch. I can invest hundreds of millions of dollars in technology, leading to the point where the customer is super satisfied with the tech. It's done its job. But you, as a customer, if the car you wanted is not available, or the car you get into is dirty, or the car you get into is damaged, or you had to wait for 20 minutes, 30 minutes unnecessarily in line, guess what? It doesn't matter how the tech served you. Your experience in that moment of time is poor, and it'll reflect in your Net Promoter Score. And so my job is very interesting. It's like, how do you balance out the digital and the physical worlds to give a comprehensively better experience? The other thing we're doing at NPS is last year, we integrated emergency roadside service into our mobile offerings, wherein, cars break down. We all know that. But in the past, if a car broke down, it would be very difficult for our customers to really know where do they stand. Is someone going to help me? Is someone going to pick me up? Is a flatbed on its way? Since last year, you can actually track the flatbed truck, exactly where it is. You can message the driver of the truck and talk to them. And so this is all about caring, showing caring of the customer beyond just the customer being an economic benefit for the company. It is, we want you back. We want you to come back. We want you to talk about us. And we want your business, but we want to earn it every day.
Quite compelling, certainly. I mentioned at the outset that you and the team, Ravi, have been focused on modernizing a variety of practices, presumably, especially as you think about the innovation, having a more solid, modern foundation facilitates the ability to innovate to a greater extent. Can you talk a bit about some of the areas that you focused on as you contemplated modernization?
Certainly, our company is many decades old. So as you can well imagine, with that comes many stacks of legacy technology. And our company, when I joined, ran the gamut of extremely legacy to extremely modern, right? Which is like, I would say, not unlike any other company in my space with our pedigree and our legacy. The one thing that I really wanted to work on, despite my title, so remember I said there's a CIO, there's a digital platforms role, and then there's an innovation role, like three roles burnt into one title for me. But I had to lean in on the CIO role. Why? Because in order to earn the trust of our customers and our frontline teammates, we need reliability of our systems. We need to drive the reliability to an extremely high point where they just count on us. I would say that wasn't really the case when I joined the company. It was not due to lack of investments. I would say the management and the board has always invested very well in the tech side of the house. It's just some decisions that were made in the past were not optimal that we had to correct. Very proud to say the team is fantastic. My team is just like outstanding. I'm just their mouthpiece. They're outstanding. And they have led us on a reliability path over the last 2 years, where it used to be a topic during board discussions. Now it is no longer a topic. Our uptime is almost 99.98%, right? So this is what we really want. Mean time to recovery has fallen dramatically to a point where our operation is stunned. I've heard statements like, in the last 30 years, I've never had this come back so quickly. I mean, so you feel very proud. So we did the reliability bit because we needed to create a foundation that people trusted, including me. We did that. And then we started building the other pieces on top of that. We built a new app. We've been constantly adding new features to our .coms. We have been using data on the back end to drive insights and analytics for our operations and for marketing and for our revenue teams. We work very closely with the commercial side, with the commercial function of the company, and that comes to the digital, right? I just moved from CIO to digital, where it's like, how do we take the platforms we have and how do we drive conversion? And it really comes down to this, putting the best offer in front of the right customer at the right time at the highest probability of conversion. That's what we want. We want that. And so it's going to be very important for us to focus on that. But we couldn't do that because we had to focus on reliability. So we got that done. Now we are optimizing, and we have been for the last year, optimizing the digital platforms, the customer-facing platforms, but also the platforms that are, for example, our revenue management folks use to take pricing actions and to put new pricing actions out there. So we're doing that. Now I'll shift to the innovation side of the house. What are we doing there? We have a rather large program that I'm working in collaboration with Brian Choi, who's our Chief Transformation Officer. We call the Lighthouses, where our job, what we're trying to do is optimize how we conduct our operations. Generally speaking, there are three pillars to our operations. One is rental, the rental counter or the rental operations, where with a customer, you walk in, you see the people at the rental counter. That's exactly what it is. Then within the locations, we have fleet movement. So when you return a car, it has to go back for cleaning or other things that need to happen to it before it comes back ready for rent. That's fleet movement. And then you have supply chain. If the car needs to go and get a repair, a preventative maintenance, et cetera, it goes to supply chain. So what we're trying to do, and this is the innovation side of the house, is how do we compress the time between when a car is returned to us and when it gets back into a customer's hands in rental? Because as we all know, fundamentally, an asset, a physical asset you have that's not being utilized is costing you a lot of money. That's where the innovation comes in. That's just one aspect of innovation. And we can talk about it later from a pricing standpoint. There'll be dynamic pricing that we are actively working on, but I'll get to that in a moment.
Well, this strikes me as a good place to perhaps continue with that. Please do. I think it's a logical place to mine now that we're in the innovation topic. Please talk a bit about what's planned from a dynamic pricing perspective.
Perfect. So let's call it something else. So here's again, as I said earlier, right? Putting the right offer in the right in front of the right customer at the right time, with the highest probability of conversion. Let's just think about that. Now let's take three customers. You have Peter, you have John, and you have Jack. All of these three customers, they're looking for the same product. You're looking for, an SUV, all-wheel drive. You want to rent it in Florida, somewhere in Florida. Same. Let's say Fort Lauderdale. Going down to Key West. All three of you are looking at the same thing. But Peter, amongst the three, Peter has the greatest amount of money to spend. How do we know this? There's enough information out there that you can buy, share a wallet. With that information, we know Peter has a higher propensity to pay more. Why should I offer Peter the same price as I offer the other two customers? For you, I should offer you a price that is most elastic for you, meaning it meets your requirements, but it could be a higher price. For Jack, who's completely unelastic, he is counting the pennies. I can't do that. So that is dynamic pricing. It's like, how do I convert you, maximizing the value that you bring to the table for the company, as opposed to doing a peanut butter spread and putting a price out there where all three of you will be happy with, right? Here's the thing: you'd be happy paying $20 more a day, but I didn't make you happy. so that's where dynamic pricing, you can call it many things, but I like to call it dynamic pricing because it's a page out of the aviation pricing book, and aviation is like the industry that is an absolute expert at this. And so this is something we're working on. It's like, how do we do that? Secondly, personalization. It's very, very, very important. Going back to the NPS discussion we had a short while back, one of the things that really pleases me as a customer and a consumer of goods and services, when I come back again and again and again over time, the producer has learned about me, has learned about my preferences, my likes, my wants, my dislikes. And they cater to my likes and my wants. And they make sure what I have not liked or what I have not disliked or what I have not chosen in the past is no longer presented to me unless I have not experienced something before that could really amp up my experience for the future. So that is personalization. It's like, I know you, so I am going to cater to you, Peter. I don't care about the rest of the universe of customers. I am catering to you right now. And that personalization is choice of vehicle, availability, pricing, ancillaries, the products you might have bought before, like insurance, like SiriusXM, like any other ancillaries that you've bought before. All that comes together in a personalized offer for you. So you can add up dynamic pricing and personalization, personalized offers, you bring them together and you put them in front of the customer. The customer says, my God, this company really knows me and really cares about what I want. And over time, you convert more with my company and your NPS goes up. So I would say those are the areas I would spotlight.
Fascinating overview of that, and appreciate the thorough diagnosis of what brings that to life as well. I wanted to ask you a question about generative artificial intelligence. I know it's an area that you've been investigating and piloting in some key areas. I wonder if you could talk a bit about a use case that you're particularly excited about. What comes to mind, please?
Sure. I'll talk about two use cases, okay? Because there's AI-based decisioning, and there's generative AI, which is like training LLMs and doing like general blocking and tackling. So I'll start off with the AI side of the house. Very simple. We're doing automated damage detection. Today, we have 5 locations in the country, 5 pilot locations, where we have cameras in the ingress and egress lanes of our locations that take videos of every car going out, coming in. And what we do is we use AI to capture incremental damage. Because when a customer brings back a car and there is damage in the car, and the customer swears that they did not cause this damage. My feeling is more often than not, the customer is right. So when we get this incremental damage mapping, and then we expose that to the customer and equally expose that to our operation, that difficult conversation just dissolves because now you have facts, I mean, you have facts about what the damage is and when it could have occurred. That's it. But then because it's so voluminous, the data is so voluminous, the only way to do it in the fastest time, and to inform the recipients, the customer, all the operation is using AI, because you have to train the models in the back end. And so I'm a very firm believer in this, and very soon you will see this feature showing up on a mobile app where a customer, today you have customers walk around cars, taking pictures. We're going to take these pictures and or videos, attach them to their rental contracts. And if there's damage, our goal is to automatically circle the damage for them. And so this is done, gets attached to the rental agreement. So the uncomfortable conversation when the car is returned is mostly taken care of. And we're doing many more, but the second one I'd like to highlight is, you've heard about this, Peter, chatbots, okay? I remember when I joined the company, my board, and that's when OpenAI came up with ChatGPT. And my board said, what are you doing with ChatGPT? And I said, I'm doing nothing with it because it's all noise. There is no signal. I don't know what it does. It's answering questions that any human could answer, maybe a bit faster. Fast forward to now, all these companies have become a little bit more mature, a little bit smarter in the technology they're producing and how it could actually drive my business, right? Not just be a cool tech to implement and tell my board and tell my CEO, and then be on a podcast like yours and say, we've done AI. No. It is, we need outcomes. We need specific outcomes. So in this example, we are actually in the midst of a proof of concept with our contact centers. A vast majority of calls that come to our contact centers are information seeking. Those calls can be handled easily by automation because they're information seeking. That's, for me, the spot for Gen AI to drive a smart agent that answers these calls and these questions for our customers. And as if during a conversation, it becomes more and more complex where the agent is unable to come up with a response that is acceptable or that has enough content, then it gets handed over to a human agent automatically with the entire history. Why are we doing this? When customers call us, again, because they have no time, they don't want to wait. When they call us, they can speak in natural language, get back the responses. They can type on their app, on their smartphone, get back the exact same responses, and be on their way. So these are two. The second one is very simple, but it drives, I would say, a lot of satisfaction for customers because they're getting their answers really quickly. And for my company, it drives a lot of efficiency in terms of productivity, where contact center agents are not picking up the phone and answering a question that was so easily answered by automation.
Yeah, again, fascinating use cases. I appreciate sharing a bit more on each of those. Any other trends, Ravi, that you would highlight as particularly exciting as you look to the future, especially as an innovation specialist? You must have a lot of things that you're toying around with or having the team test. Would love to understand some of the things that are starting to catch your eye.
Yeah, I mean, I want innovation to be directly tied to outcomes. Otherwise, it ends up being the most abused word in tech. And in one particular case, as we look forward in time, there are companies like Waymo. Waymo's got autonomous vehicles today. I know it's going to become a reality soon. It's just something that's bound to happen. But I don't want to go crazy saying, you'll have self-driving cars or flying cars or what have you. All I want is for a customer, when they arrive at an airport and the Avis app is launched, the machine in the backend just knows Peter has arrived at gate B10 in O'Hare. There is so much time. It typically takes at this time of day from B10 to come out of the terminal. Peter taps a button saying, I'm here. His car comes to him in front of the terminal and he drives away. That's all I want to do. Because When you look at breakages in journeys, especially in airports, um, you have taken some time to get to the airport. You've gone through security. You waited for your plane to board, to take off, then your journey, then you land, then you taxi to the gate. It takes a lot of your time, a lot of your energy, where you actually have zero control over anything. You think you do, but you don't, right? This is where I can give you two things that are most important that I think are for my customers: convenience and control. I'm really looking forward to that. To me, that's going to be a very important aspect of ground transportation that we'll start seeing kind of penetrate the markets in the future.
An exciting thought process. I'm looking forward to the point at which my rental car meets me at the curb as I get out of the terminal. What a compelling case you're describing there. I wanted to also ask you, Ravi, in conclusion, anything you've recently read, listened to, and or watched that you would recommend to your peers?
I read a lot of books, but I'm more of the science fiction kind of guy. So I forgot to put on my tinfoil hat. So that's probably for something else. But I would just ask everyone to look at the most recent SpaceX video where they recaptured the booster. Forever, we've been told things are not possible. It's too difficult, costs too much money. But there are companies out there that are proving themselves over and over again that nothing is impossible. You just have to put your mind to it. So when it comes to trends that I see, engineering and automation that supports the engineering is really going to change how we function as society in the future. Things that were really difficult will become really, really simple. And then we will find more difficult problems to solve. Right now, I think our foundation, a base is so low that everything seems difficult. I feel that AI finally hitting mainstream. Tech companies have just yesterday have started saying, well, they're seeing returns on invested capital for themselves, which means that more and more corporations and consumers are accepting it. I really feel that for better or for worse, whether we like it or not, AI and elements of it and components of it will start penetrating our lives like never before. Like all things, the only way for corporations to make money, especially tech corporations, is to make great products to actually serve their consumers, right? I've always believed that. So I have never felt that AI is actually going to be a bad thing for humanity, because on the flip side, someone's trying to make money, and you can't make money if people are not happy. So I really believe that it is going to bring massive step changes on how we do things and how we employ our intellect to do higher value things. That's my prediction. I'm very bullish on it, not from an investment standpoint or anything, but at least, I'm going to be 57 soon. And by far, the last big thing that happened in tech that really impressed me was TCP/IP. So this is the next big thing, and I really believe that my colleagues, who hopefully will listen to this, will also have the same point of view. Just be measured about it, because again, there's a lot of noise, not enough signal, but now the signal has started coming through.
Well, Ravi Simhambhatla, thank you so much for a terrific conversation. Great insights across the board. It's wonderful to hear more about how you've oriented your own mind as well as your team and the remarkable things that you are moving forward at Avis Budget Group. Thank you so much for a really stimulating and interesting discussion.
Thank you, Peter. It's a real privilege to be on this podcast. Really appreciate you and your time.